Welcome to the Carousel of Happiness Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Wagner. We are still accepting votes for the 2025 Mayor of the Carousel race. Lion is still leading the pack, with Pig and Dragon breathing down his neck, so to speak, in second and third. Polls remain open until May 26th. All votes are $1 apiece, 100% tax deductible, and go directly back into the carousel to keep us spinning. On last week's episode, I introduced you to one of our amazing staff members, gift shop manager and social media maven, Pat Hagberg. Pat was the original girl boss before that was even a term, and upon retirement, she found her way to the carousel in 2012. Through Pat's story, we learned about the tremendous power of compassionate listening. Turns out it pretty much cures everything, it's free, and you, the listener, actually feel better when you do it for the others. And what I love so much about that story is how Pat didn't know any of that. She didn't know what Thich Nhat Hanh had to say about compassionate listening. She didn't read a book about it. She didn't know about a new study that she had heard about on the news. She didn't take a class. Pat engaged in compassionate listening her entire life because it felt good, because it felt natural, because it felt life-giving to her. Pat sits behind the desk and holds space for you and your stories and your pain because she enjoys it, because it brings her joy. And it's that connection between joy and purpose, pleasure and your contribution to this planet that I want to talk about today. Because yesterday I had the profound honor and privilege to sit down and visit with JoLee Wingerson, a Boulder-based animal communicator with almost 25 years of experience. For more than 2 decades, JoLee has communicated with animals on behalf of humans and vice versa, and has some powerful things to say about our spiritual relationship with animals. You'll learn what animals really want us to know and how we can support them best. Plus, I'll tell you the story of when my husband brought home a 7-week-old puppy without telling me. Let us begin with today's story. JoLee Wingerson always could talk to animals. Always. Since she was a child on her grandparents' farm in Kansas, JoLee sort of always knew what the cows were thinking or how the chickens were doing. She'd watch the hawks soar above, and she herself would feel their joy. It was a type of connection, a type of communication that felt so strong, so natural. She had no idea other human beings did not experience it the same way. Each year, she'd visit her grandparents' farm and she'd ride the family's Shetland quarter horse, Pepper. Year after year, she and Pepper would ramble through the countryside together until one day, when JoLee was a teenager, Pepper said, "I don't want to be ridden anymore." JoLee understood, and she didn't ride him anymore. But she couldn't figure out why everyone else did. Clearly, he did not want to be ridden. He had told her as much. Why wouldn't everyone else have gotten the message too? And that's when JoLee knew she was different. As a young adult, JoLee raised 2 wild baby birds, a starling and a robin, who had fallen out of their nests. Each of them imprinted on her and followed her everywhere until they were ready to move out of her nest, so to speak. Even with this experience, she did not think she was an animal communicator. She didn't even know that was a thing. She started working in finance, then got her master's in journalism, working as a freelance writer into her 40s. When at 41 years old, everything changed. JoLee's sister got diagnosed with cancer, and the prognosis didn't look great. Actually, It didn't look bad, but JoLee was having a hard time convincing her sister of that fact. During this time, JoLee was her sister's biggest cheerleader. She kept reminding her sister she had decent odds of living a whole nother 5 years if she listened to doctors. And JoLee's nephew was 3 years old at the time. Didn't she want to spend time with her son? But it seemed the more JoLee cheered her sister on, the more her sister pulled away. Around this time, JoLee had a friend who was studying in the clairvoyant program at the Psychic Horizons Center in Boulder. And her friend asked JoLee if her sister wanted a reading. A reading? JoLee had never had a psychic reading before, and she couldn't imagine her sister wanting one at this time. But she asked anyway, and to her surprise, her sister said yes. But there was one caveat. JoLee's sister wanted JoLee to listen to the recording first and only tell her the quote-unquote good stuff. JoLee agreed and listened to her sister's reading. Now, this was back in the day when the readings came in the mail on audio cassettes. JoLee listened to the tape, and the message that came through that day was that her sister only had a 20% will to live. JoLee, the cheerleader, was stunned. But the woman's voice on the tape used a phrase verbatim she had heard come out of her sister's mouth on at least 2 separate occasions. JoLee knew the woman was right. So JoLee told her sister the good stuff in the reading as promised, and JoLee sat in stillness with the 20% will to live stuff. She needed to accept that her sister did not want to live anymore. And that's when JoLee started to really listen to what her sister was actually saying when they spoke to one another. Her sister would regularly say things like, "When I die, please do this and that." Her sister wanted JoLee's help planning her funeral. That's what her sister wanted. But cheerleader JoLee didn't hear any of that. It was only after that first reading JoLee really started to listen to her sister and met her sister where she was at. She stopped forcing her. She stopped trying to cheer her on. JoLee started to give her sister the help she actually wanted. Help planning her funeral, an agreement that she'd be her nephew's spiritual guardian. And the two sisters became close again. JoLee's sister was committed to doing everything she could to stay alive, but nothing more. And when she passed, JoLee started getting her own psychic readings. They helped her grieve, and they helped her heal. And the healing she experienced as a result of these readings was too much to deny. JoLee decided she was ready to understand energy better, to heal herself, so she picked up and moved to Boulder to attend the very same clairvoyant training her friend did. But it's important to note JoLee came to the clairvoyant training as a way of understanding energy to heal herself. She did not know anything about animal communication. She did not know it was a thing. She was a spiritual seeker on a spiritual journey, and that's how she ended up at Psychic Horizons. And over the course of the year-long program, they did one class on animal communication, and JoLee was hooked. She still remembers her very first reading and her very first healing. The school was hosting a healing clinic while she was in school, and JoLee met with a 46-year-old woman and her 43-year-old turtle, Zippy. The woman lived with Zippy and her 3 cats, which is part of the reason he was called Zippy. Apparently, living with 3 cats as a turtle makes you pretty fast. The woman brought Zippy into the healing clinic because he had stopped eating. And when JoLee asked him why have you stopped eating, all he would say was home. Home. Which didn't mean anything to JoLee. And at first, it didn't mean anything to Zippy's mom until it did. She had moved his bed to a different place in the house right around the time he stopped eating. At the very same clinic, a woman walked in carrying a picture of a horse. Poeta was her name. And Poeta had a pretty significant injury on her leg. So JoLee offered Poeta some healing and then didn't really think anything else of it. The next morning, JoLee woke to see Poeta in her mind's eye standing directly above her bed. It startled JoLee at first until Poeta said, "I'd like some more healing, please." JoLee agreed, offering Poeta healing after healing until she fully recovered. That's when JoLee knew she was an animal communicator. She ordered a box of business cards and has been doing this work full-time ever since. In the fall of 2020, my husband and I were living just outside Lake Tahoe. This was peak COVID time, and the world was a really, really strange, scary place. And one September morning, September 1st to be exact, my husband went out to, quote, pick up groceries and came back with a 7-week-old 9-pound wiggly bundle of Labrador cuteness. I had no idea. Which, according to my husband, was not true. Apparently, we had a conversation a couple of days before when he asked me hypothetically if I ever thought I wanted another dog. Sure, I sort of said, half listening. Didn't really think anything of it. Because I didn't know he had a friend who worked at the local Humane Society who knew of a litter of 4 puppies arriving that weekend from Lovelock, Nevada. My husband signed the paperwork, swore our friends to secrecy, and planned to have Jenny, our 4-year-old silver lab, on a play date that morning when her little brother showed up. Now, let me tell you who also did not know a puppy was coming. Jenny was not informed, nor was she at all pleased with the decision. Seriously, she did not love it at first. Until the next morning, when Jenny and her new little brother, Elwood, were walking on the trail and a dog ran up a little too quickly up to Elwood. Jenny immediately knocked the other dog on its butt and has been protecting Elwood ever since. When we talked yesterday, JoLee offered to do a check-in with my dogs, Jenny and Elwood, just like she would another client. So before we talked, I sent JoLee a picture of my dogs and their names so she could prepare, and that was it. So when JoLee tells me in our reading that Jenny is extremely bonded to Elwood, I'm not surprised. I am also not surprised when Jenny thanks me through JoLee for my infinite patience with her and acceptance of who she is. That dog is telling the truth. She is super weird, and I enable/accept all of her little quirks and peccadillos in a way that I never would and haven't yet for my husband or another human being. That is what Jenny has taught me. When I asked JoLee to explain how she's able to communicate with animals, she explains that most animals talk in pictures. And it turns out human beings do too. For example, If I say the word tree right now, chances are, if you're present and listening to the sound of my voice, you might imagine or draw a picture in your mind of a tree. Some of you might go pine or willow, depending on where you're from, but you're likely right now experiencing a picture of a tree in your mind. And that's part of what you experience when you're listening to this podcast. I pick words and I put them together in a specific way that allows you to see a picture in your mind. And that's how our pets communicate with each other and with us, with mind pictures. So when you're ready to take your dog on a walk, chances are they know before you've even said the word or pulled out the leash. Because in your mind, you're thinking walk, and you might be conjuring a mind picture of grabbing the leash and changing your clothes and moving toward the door. And this is the picture that your dog reads, and that's how they know they're going on a walk. JoLee suggests this experiment to anyone who wants to try talking to their pets. Sit somewhere quietly and clear your mind. You can meditate, you can take some deep breaths, slowly watch your mind chatter quiet. Then imagine feeding your pet. Don't actually do it. Visualize yourself doing it. See yourself getting up from where you are, going into the kitchen, scooping their food, opening a can, whatever the details are for you. Walk through those steps in your mind and see how your pets react. Do they hop up on your lap? Do they stare at you and drool like mine do? See if you can draw a picture in your mind and watch your pet respond. Your pet wants to respond to you. Your pet wants to connect and communicate with you. So if you ask your pet a question with a clear mind and get still, you can transmit that picture to your pet. So as an example, JoLee worked with an elderly couple who recently adopted a really large golden retriever. And the dog was great. They already loved him so very much. But he was super big and really excited to walk with them / on top of them while they went up the stairs. And that was a problem because the owners were older and they were worried that the dog would knock them over as they walked up the stairs. So they went to JoLee and asked for help. JoLee explained that the owners could stand at the bottom of the stairs and visualize themselves walking up the stairs while the dog stayed at the bottom. Then, when they are at the top of the stairs, they can call to the dog in this visualization that would then run up to meet them. The couple tried it once and has never had a problem with the dog on the stairs again. The trick, of course, is that our lives are very busy these days. Our minds go from one picture to the next, and our animals don't know which image is for them. Our minds are so cluttered, it's difficult for us to speak to them clearly. But that is not a problem with Elwood and me. Ever since he was a puppy, a goofy, flopsy, silly, wiggly ball of boundless joy and unconditional love, Elwood and I have been bonded. We are so connected that sometimes Elwood knows when I'm about to get upset before I even do. All of a sudden, out of quote-unquote nowhere, Elwood will sense my energy shifting and gets right up in my face with his wiggly behind. He will vocalize making these noises, and his back half will snap right and left, his tail whipping behind him. In those moments, he is aware of my energy changing before I even am. He's so excited. Feel those feelings, Mama, he tells me. Doesn't it feel good to be alive? So when JoLee tells me Elwood's primary agreement in this lifetime is for us to learn from each other, I am not surprised. When she tells me Elwood is slightly more of a worldly, sophisticated soul than his sister, I am not surprised. Apparently, he takes much pride and pleasure in being the perfect dog, which he is. Apparently, Elwood and I are destined to learn from each other in this lifetime. He is genuinely curious about what it means to be human, and through our relationship, I am learning how to trust, how to give, and how to take, so that I might take these lessons into my relationships with others, which I am. Anytime I'm upset, Elwood is there, laying on my face or kissing my cheek. Anytime I am joyful, Elwood is there, prancing around the living room with my slipper in his mouth. Anytime I allow myself to be fully present in this moment with all of its joyfulness and all of its messiness, Elwood is there, cheering me on. This is it, he tells me. This is what being a human is all about. When I ask JoLee what she's learned about humans and about animals doing this work, she closes her eyes for a minute and pauses. It's a good question, she says. And then she waits. She waits for the answer to show up as a picture in her mind. She is quick to point out that animals love us unconditionally. She often sees a lot of guilt among her clients. They're often afraid to know what their pets honestly think of them. I'll admit, that was one of my concerns before we talked too. Clients come to JoLee worried about the one time they lost their temper or fed their pet late. The truth is, animals don't think of us in that way. They don't look at the small details. They look at the entirety of our lives. They look at the big picture. They don't remember that little blip. JoLee had a client come to her because she was feeling guilty about traveling a lot. It didn't matter that she had a great sitter for her dog or that she spent as much time as she could with her dog when she was in town. The woman still felt guilty when she came to JoLee. What can I do to enhance your life? She asked her dog through JoLee. And through JoLee, the dog responded, "You can sit with me in the sun by the window and pet my tummy. And I like it when you sit on the sofa, look me in the eye, and do nothing but pet me." The woman was shocked. It was so simple. She didn't need to buy anything else. She didn't need to do anything else except sit in the sun with her pup and rub her belly. That's how animals think. That's what matters to them. I asked JoLee how we can serve animals better, how we can be better cat dads and dog moms. How can we as human beings be better stewards of our animal friends? She says, slow down. Step away from the electronics. Be in this present moment and enjoy life. Animals want us to be happy. That's part of how they experience joy in this lifetime, through us. When we are at our most joyful, so are they. When we are present in this moment fully and wholly without distraction, we become a match to their energy, to their frequency, and they absolutely love it. But when we experience shame or guilt, we block that unconditional love from flowing to us and through us. When we experience shame or guilt, we pinch ourselves off from who we truly are, and it doesn't serve the animals and it doesn't serve us. According to JoLee, joy is our spiritual path. When we follow joy, we follow the path met uniquely for us. And animals are powerful teachers of this message. The last couple of weeks for me have been particularly hard. Elwood has been working overtime. Every tear I've shed, every time I've blown my nose, he's been right there with my slipper in his mouth, prancing around, reminding me of how amazing it all is. How joyful it is to be fully present in this moment, no matter the circumstances. How feeling alive is different than just living. And in those moments when it feels like nothing is going right, I see this beautiful, furry, wiggly spirit with his head held high, prancing around the living room, and I can't help but love. Unconditionally, in this moment, nothing needs to change right now. It is all absolutely perfect. Will you look at him already? And he licks my nose, and he flops his head onto my chest, and he rolls over in the sun to have his belly rubbed. And that's when I realize it's oh so simple. JoLee came to Psychic Horizons because she wanted to heal herself. And in working with animals, she's been able to find herself in this lovely cycle of energetic give and take. She's been able to experience a spiritual communion with animals that has taught her to love herself and others, to release judgment of herself and others, to trust herself and her divinity, and to release her fear. You cannot be in both love and fear at the same time, she says. They are different frequencies. And that's what I think Elwood is teaching me. One wiggle and one wag at a time. In the moments when I am in love, he is there. This is love, Mama. And in the moments when I am in fear, he is there saying, this is love, Mama. His frequency is always tuned to love so I can find my way back. He is my furry, wiggly little GPS guiding me back home to unconditional love. And I sort of knew that until JoLee confirmed it. Now I really know that. And that clarity is JoLee's gift. If you would like to reach out to JoLee for a reading, please take a look at her website. The link is in the show notes. She is accepting new clients. You can also find information on how to vote for mayor. Voting is open until May 26th. In the meantime, take care. Be well. And as we like to say at the Carousel of Happiness, don't delay joy. And we'll see ya next time around.
Beginnings and endings are only pretendings. I'll see you next time around. I'll see